Howdy, guys.
Hi, who are you?
I'm just waiting for a walk. This how y'all?
This is our house.
And this is not your home.
Yes, this is my house.
To be, but no. Call the police.
Cops are calling now.
Okay, I gotta pick up. We were about to go pick up our leaves. So you're detaining all of us to under the story, right?
These people are not somebody that just lost their job and they're down and out. These people are criminals. Anytime you have a property, the second it becomes vacant, squatters will fill in that void, and then you can't get them out. They're like termites.
A lot of times they're dealing with drugs, mental health, unemployment.
They know the housing and the code enforcement laws. They know how to work the system against the homeowner.
You can't fathom the damage that can be left behind from a squatter, whether it's dead animals or damage to the property or the house burns down.
We've literally picked up a mattress and found skeletons of cats.
We had a squatter who left a dog in a cage in the yard and just disappeared. The dog died.
They're eroding the American dream that somebody can have a safe first home that they can raise their family in.
Well, welcome, guys. So you're dealing with a current squatter right now.
Yeah, we are.
How many have you had over the years?
In 20 years, I probably had a couple dozen max, but within the last 5 years, we had the dozen. So it's on the rise.
Yeah, there's an upswing.
Yes.
And there's an art to this. As Patty was saying, they know the law. They're working the system, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're using basically loopholes left and right, whether it's multiple attorneys or, they go put their retainer down with one guy and then go to the next guy, and they're just literally stalling for time.
And you guys believe that these are criminals, not people that are hard up and just trying to find a place that's warm and dry.
Because you can just look at their intent, okay? So even in hers, the woman said, I have a signed lease. That means I have ownership over this property. Just because of a lease, she used that terminology, one of them. So it's just saying, hey, just because I have this fancy paper, I now have all legal rights to this property. Not I'm renting it, not I'm staying here for a week. I have all legal rights to this property.
Yeah, this was not her first rodeo.
No.
She had done this before.
Well, as a matter of fact, when I had called the police and they were doing some investigation the very first day, the policeman said, Patty, I have to tell you, they have just been evicted out of a house literally around the corner a couple of days ago. So these are serial squatters. And in fact, you probably know this better than I do, there are squatter handbooks that one can download off of the internet. And on YouTube, there's a series of videos that you can watch to learn tricks and tips.
Yeah, let me ask y'all something. If some of this is news to y'all, raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm glad we're talking about this, because the way you can wind up being victimized by a squatter is go out of town for the weekend. I kid you not. If they see your house vacant, they see you loading up, seriously, heading off to Wally World, they see you heading off, they can move in. Correct?
Yes, yeah.
And you come back and they're waving this lease in your face. You don't live there anymore.
The longer that they're there, the more time they have to cause damage, to cause mayhem.
Yeah, we're seeing some of the damage you guys have found, which is not unlike what you found.
So this property is actually the one that Tony was almost arrested at. When we purchased the house, we thought it was vacant. And then he went and saw it, and she ended up cornering him in the house. And then same thing here. Once the cops get there, once there's some form of documentation, and it doesn't matter what that document is, once they have a piece of paper, ours in this case was a Christmas card stock. It was literally had Santa on it, and it was saying that this woman had the rights to live in the house forever for no sales price, no nothing, no considerations. And that held up for 2 years in court. It dragged us out. We lost over $250,000. We paid taxes and everything just to try to get them out. And then at the end of it all, there's no slap on the wrist. She doesn't pay any fines. We can't go after her for anything. There's nothing criminal that she has done except drag out the courts.
Now, you eject a squatter and then get a call from a neighbor that said, you just might want to know your house is on fire. So they left you a parting gift
Yeah.
and set the house on fire.
Yeah. Thankfully, that neighbor had known us. In the middle of the night, she called and said, your house is on fire.
Yeah.
There's smoke coming out of it.
And we talked about this cash for keys concept. You guys are kind of being expeditious, and you've offered as much as $25,000
Yes.
to get somebody out?
Yeah.
The current one that we're in right now, we've offered her $25,000 and she's turned it down. She's still fighting us on it. She thinks that she is fully entitled to the entire property. So if you're offering her $25,000, in her mind, I'm entitled to the entire thing. So if you're gonna give me 25, I know I can get a lot more, right? Because there's the whole property here. So it's always
Okay.
it comes back down to the entitlement.
So you've gotten squatters out before, and you say they'll crawl under the house and come back up under the floorboards.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had one about 2 months ago. We went back for our final inspection pre-closing, similar to your situation, and they had went under the crawl space. It's a pier and beam house, so it was up off the ground. They went in the crawl space and came up through the floor and gutted the house of all the wiring just to get the little bit of copper out so they can get a couple $100. But it's $10,000 or $20,000 worth of damage to us.
I have to say, from a psychological standpoint, what I go through in my head is what your mindset would have to be to do this, to say, I'm going to go move into somebody's house and look them in the eye and tell them, it's mine now, get out. And then if they eventually get you out, to say, I'm just going to destroy the property. It's not enough that I've lived here for free for 18 months before I go victimize somebody else. I'm going to destroy the property.
This is what happens when someone moves into a property without any vested interest in the condition of the property. I wished I could say that this was uncommon. I wish I could say it's the first time I've ever been in a house this messy, but it's not.
Wow. Well, Barry, I guess the good thing is they left the washer and dryer.
They did. I don't think they used it very often.
No, it doesn't look like it. So how long were they in?
Before I came into the picture, they had been there about 9 months. Another property manager basically said, hey, we're done, we can't handle this. And so they called me in to take care of it.
How many of these folks are drug addicts, mentally ill, and how many of them are just straight up psychopaths?
Well, I think some of the psychopaths also do drugs. And so it gets to be a mixed bag. I think that Patty had it correct. There's a sense of entitlement that comes along. And I think you asked earlier about how they got into that. I know your background, you're kind of thinking, what makes them think that? I think it's decades of mind shifting that you've come in and said, this is your right, this is right. You don't have to work for this. You can get things given to you without having to work for them. You can, the government will give you things, and if you don't have something and you want it, it's because you're underprivileged and somebody's taking advantage of you because they have what you want, and that's your right. And so I think that it's a combination of all of those things. I definitely see drugs involved a lot. You almost are never gonna have, in your case, those two squatters that they showed in the video, those were both drug users. I mean, you can see that pattern. They come in with.
She had just gotten kicked out of rehab that morning.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you definitely have a large percentage of them that are drug users. And then you have the others, and probably more so in your case, that were basically weaponizing the system and using it to go after people that have what they want that they can't have. So it's like a lottery ticket for them. But they didn't have to buy the lottery ticket. They just broke in and took it.
Yeah, I think one of the most fundamental principles of psychology is you don't reward bad behavior. If you're at the grocery store with your child, 2-year-old, and they fall on the floor throwing a tantrum, you don't race to the candy aisle and get some candy and go over there and say, oh, here, baby, here's some candy. You would never do that. I mean, anybody that would, some village is missing their idiot. Everybody knows you would not do that.
Have you been to California?
Oh, I came from California.
Touche.
Yeah. Seriously, we know that at that level. Most parents know that about their children, but apparently we don't seem to keep our focus on that as a government or sometimes as a culture. But yet, when somebody does this, they break into a house and they start living there, then we do reward that.
The police are in handcuffs rather than the squatter.
Of course. And so the system is broken. We're rewarding bad behavior. As you said, we're shaping this behavior through entitlement, 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 entitlement. Those were able-bodied women on your front porch that could have been working, but they aren't. They could have been affording a place, but they aren't. How many squatters have you dealt with?
I've managed about 500 properties total. I probably have dealt with maybe 100 over the years. And I think earlier to your point, the government makes a bad parent.
Yeah.
The government is not a good parent. I believe there's a phrase that goes something like, the scariest words I ever heard are, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
And so the government just does a bad job parenting, and that's what's going on. We've changed the laws upside down. The landlord, the owner, 41% of all the rentals are owned by mom and pop landlords. Those people are counting on that income. When you have 3.7 million eviction filings in a year, just this last year, then what you really have, if you shape that the other way, yes, I feel bad for the 3.7 million people that are having trouble paying their rent. We all do. At the same time, though, I also feel bad for each homeowner that had that property that is now missing at least $10,000, maybe $20,000. And we're not even talking about intentional damage. We're talking about just people that didn't pay their rent. In California, it takes me 4 months to get them out, if I do it correctly the whole way through. And if I do it wrong, start over.
Back to square
Go back
one.
to the beginning.
And those professionals aren't free.